What's going on, Panther Nation? It's your boy Nick here, the rational Carolina Panthers fan. And I know it's been like a really long time since I've made a video for this channel, and I think this channel maybe has like 2 subscribers as of recording this video, so I don't really think anybody cares that much what I've been doing, but you know, I'm just busy doing other stuff, don't really have time to do a lot on this channel. But I recently watched a documentary from the Charlotte Observer on the 2015 Carolina Panthers. It is now 2025. It means we're coming up on 10 years since that awesome Super Bowl season. The documentary just really got me thinking and kind of reminiscing on that season. I think they did a pretty good job with it. And so I just wanted to kind of, reflect and give my own thoughts on that season. Obviously, I don't think any of us really expected, for us to go on like a close to undefeated run there in the regular season. I think a lot of us expected the team to be pretty good. They were coming off a playoff appearance out of a 7-8-1 season in 2014. So they somehow still made the playoffs by winning the division because the division was just not very good. So I think we were expecting us to be pretty decent, but nowhere near the level of that, I think like the first 2 games of 2015, I think the first game was against Jacksonville, which ironically is, that's this season too, is the first game against Jacksonville here in 2025. And then week 2, I think, was against the Texans. And I don't think either of those wins were really that convincing. They were just solid wins overall, but nothing. I don't think they dominated necessarily or anything like that. And then kind of the same situation in week 3. Now this was a game that I was at. Week 3 was against the Saints at home. And up to this point, I don't think I had been to a game in like over 10 years at that point. My dad took me to a game when I was like 9 or 10. I think it was in the 2004 season. And I didn't go to another game until week 3 of 2015. And I remember the atmosphere was super awesome. It was a cloudy day. It was maybe a little bit rainy. And I always think that makes for better football weather for whatever reason. I think like just cloudy. I don't know. To me, it just makes the atmosphere that much better. And so, but I remember it was kind of a close game, and Drew Brees wasn't playing that game. He was hurt. Forget who the backup was that was playing for the Saints, but they kind of, stuck around most of the game. But I was I was in the lower section, and I was like in the corner of the end zone, basically. And it gets kind of towards the end of the game, the Saints are trying to make a late drive to potentially take the lead and win the game. And the quarterback for the Saints, threw that kind of corner pass in the end zone, and Josh Norman, just leaped up and took it away. And that happened like literally, maybe 30 yards in front of me. The whole place went wild. I went wild. That was one of the coolest things I think I'll ever experience as a Panthers fan. And that was super cool. But then of course, I think the next week was, I think maybe, was it the Tampa Bay game? I think it was the Tampa Bay game. Josh Norman had like 3 more interceptions or something crazy like that. And then of course, I think the week after that was the Seattle game. And, we always played Seattle close, but like we never beat them, right? And then we're in their house. And I was watching it. I remember watching that game. I was over at a buddy's house watching it. And I think Seattle started going up on us pretty late. And it started looking like, okay, it's going to be another close, loss to Seattle. Then Carolina started coming back, and then, that last touchdown pass to Greg Olsen, I jumped up because all my buddies were like teasing me when we were losing, like, here comes your undefeated streak's going to be over or whatever, And then Greg Olsen caught that game-winning touchdown, and I got up and I was like, yeah, in your face, like just yelling at my buddies and stuff. I was super pumped. And of course, I think the rest of the season, it was wild how we would like dominate, for the first half in certain games, like, the Indianapolis game. It was a rainy Monday night. We were like dominating, and then we let them come back, but we still won. Same situation with, I think, the Green Bay game, kicking their asses early in the first half, and then the second half, here comes Aaron Rodgers, coming back on us, but we still managed to pull that one out too. And then, we got all the way down to like the Giants game, which was kind of the same situation, but also that was that was a crazy one because of the Josh Norman Odell Beckham Jr. fight and everything, which made for some very entertaining sports. I'm not going to lie. I kind of enjoyed watching it, but of course, we were kicking their butts. Then late in the game, they make a comeback to, I think they tied the game up, and then Graham Gano saved us there with that last drive. I think about that New York game too that a lot of people don't talk about is Cam Newton played great in that game, but it doesn't get talked about that much because of the Josh Norman Odell Beckham thing. Then of course I think the following week was the one loss, the loss we had against Atlanta, and I think the team just didn't really it just wasn't their day really, and so I wondered, like, is that gonna mess with, how's that gonna affect them moving forward? And then the following week was the last week of the regular season against Tampa Bay, and we ended up obliterating them, and first round bye in the playoffs and everything, and get to the Seattle game. I was watching that over at my parents' house, and I think that Sunday I was starting a new job the next day, and I was like on the phone with, I don't know if it was like my new boss or somebody pertaining to that job, and I missed like the first part of the game where Luke got that pick six for a touchdown, like at the very beginning of the game. But I could hear my family like inside, like cheering and going wild and stuff like that. Once again, same situation though. I think we were beating them like 30-0 or something there in the first half, and then they somehow managed to come all the way back and bring it within a touchdown or something like that towards the end of the game, and just managed to pull it out there towards the end. And then, of course, the NFC Championship game, obliterated the Cardinals. Kind of ironic because they did the same thing to us back in what was it, 2009 in the divisional round, and so it was fun to kind of do the same thing back to them. And then we get to the Super Bowl, and I'd never seen like the city that I live in North Carolina and just all around be so hyped for a game before, and it was fun. We were watching the game with my family over at my grandpa's house, and of course did not get the result that we wanted. And honestly, I think that that game in particular, Super Bowl 50, I think it hurts me more now, 10 years later, than it did back then. I think I was a little naive back then, because once right when we lost the game, I was thinking, well, that kind of sucks, but we just won 15 games, 17 if you count the two playoff games, and I was like, oh, we'll be back, we're gonna get back there, and we hadn't even come close since then. We went to the playoffs in 2017, but lost in the wild card round and hadn't even sniffed the playoffs since. So I was pretty naive back then. So I think it hurts more now. And they even say this in that documentary. Like Mike Tolbert said that like some of the younger guys on the team then were thinking, we'll be back. And Mike Tolbert's like, man, this is like a once in a lifetime thing. There's only one dynasty like every decade or so, right? And so losing that Super Bowl really hurt more than I could have predicted. And looking back, like I've watched the game a couple times since then, and I do kind of agree with Greg Olson, what he said in the documentary, that a lot of people were thinking that the Panthers or Cam or whoever was bought to throw the game on purpose, kind of give an explanation as to why Cam didn't dive on the ball and stuff like that. I don't really buy into that. You go back and watch the game, and that, I think what really hurt was the Jericho Cotchery no catch call that should have been a catch. And then of course that was like the next player was the play where Von Miller stripped Cam and got a touchdown out of it. And so that's, there was, both teams turned the ball over several times in that game, but Carolina turned it over more. Carolina lost the turnover battle. I think that was one thing that really hurt. And then, the Broncos defense, I can't remember for sure, but I want to say they were like the number 1 ranked defense that year. And they probably, were feeling a little disrespected before the game, saying that Carolina was going to run all over them and stuff like that. I just think that Carolina was going into the game. They felt really good, and they were maybe a little cocky. And Denver said, "No, we ain't playing that today." So they made sure that Cam had a tough day. They overwhelmed him, and we lost the turnover battle. But maybe if Jericho Cotchery catches that ball, things turn out maybe a little different. You can't really say for sure, but looking back on it, besides the fact that it hurts more now, 10 years later, that we didn't win that Super Bowl. I always have great memories from that season. Every Sunday was exciting, and it was just a fun time. And I'm hoping that this upcoming season in 2025, we seem to have a little more hope than we have had in previous years. So I'm hopeful that, maybe we can at least spark a little playoff run or something like that, compete for the division title. Not so sure that a Super Bowl run is in the making this year, but hey, you never know, man. The NFL is the most unpredictable sports league, I think. And, so you never know what might happen. But anyways, thanks for coming here and checking out my rambling. If you guys like this content, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to post some more Panthers related stuff. But I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to y'all later. See ya.